You have been taught to sacrifice yourself, to put others first, to feel guilty for wanting things, to apologize for your success, to believe that selfishness is the root of all evil, and that being a good person means erasing your own desires for the sake of the collective. What if I told you that every single one of those beliefs is a lie designed to enslave you? Ayn Rand escaped Soviet Russia, where she watched collectivism devour millions of lives. She came to America and wrote books that became cultural phenomena, selling tens of millions of copies. She built a philosophy that has influenced everyone from tech entrepreneurs to political leaders, and at the core of everything she wrote was one radical idea. Selfishness is not only moral, it's the only thing that is moral. Before you close this video in outrage, before you dismiss her as a monster or a prophet, stay with me for 20 minutes. Because whether you agree with Ayn Rand or despise her, understanding her ideas will force you to confront questions you've been avoiding your entire life. Who do you live for? Why do you do what you do? And have you been sacrificing your one precious life to expectations and demands that will consume you completely if you let them? This is not about politics. This is about you, about whether the life you're living is actually yours. Let's begin. Before we go further, I need to ask you something personal. Have you ever felt guilty for wanting something for yourself? Have you ever sacrificed what you truly wanted because someone told you it was selfish? Have you ever felt that pursuing your own happiness makes you a bad person? Leave a comment. Because Ayn Rand built her entire philosophy to answer that guilt you feel. Ayn Rand was born Elisa Zinovievna Rosenbaum in St. Petersburg, Russia, in 1905. Her family was middle class and Jewish. Her father owned a pharmacy. She grew up in comfort, education, and relative freedom. Then came 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution, communism. Overnight, everything changed. Her father's pharmacy was seized by the state. Her family's comfortable life disappeared. They were suddenly among the former people, the bourgeoisie marked for elimination. They fled to Crimea, lived in poverty, returned to a Petrograd transformed into a city of terror, where people disappeared in the night, and bread lines stretched for blocks. Young Elisa watched the systematic destruction of everything her family had built. She watched the state devour individual lives in the name of the collective good. She watched people inform on neighbors, betray friends, sacrifice anyone to prove their loyalty to the state. She watched genius minds forced to serve the mediocre. She watched producers become slaves to those who produced nothing, and she made a vow. If she ever escaped this hell, she would spend her life warning the world about where collectivism leads. In 1926, at age 21, Elisa obtained permission to visit relatives in America. She knew she would never return. She arrived in New York, changed her name to Ayn Rand, and looked at the Manhattan skyline, seeing in those towering buildings the physical manifestation of human achievement unleashed. She had $50 and spoke broken English. She had no connections, no safety net, nothing but her mind and her will. Within years, she was writing for Hollywood. Within decades, she had written novels that would sell over 30 million copies and transform American culture. This was her proof of concept, that an individual with nothing but ability could rise in a free society, that you don't need permission, pedigree, or collective approval, that your mind and your effort are enough. This experience would become the foundation of everything she taught. Let me ask you directly, do you believe that your life belongs to you? Not in theory, in practice. Do you believe you have the right to live for your own happiness, or do you believe you exist to serve others? This is not a rhetorical question. Your answer determines everything about how you live. If this is making you think, if these questions are hitting something deep, I need you to do something now. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Not for me, but because ideas this challenging need to reach more people. And what comes next is where Rand's philosophy becomes practical. Ayn Rand's philosophy, which she called objectivism, rests on a few core ideas that most people find either liberating or horrifying. First, reality exists independent of consciousness. This sounds obvious, but it's revolutionary. Rand rejected all mysticism, all faith, all claims that reality is whatever we want it to be. She insisted that facts are facts, that wishing doesn't change reality, that the universe operates by natural law whether you like those laws or not. This makes her unusual among philosophers and puts her at odds with both religious conservatives and postmodern progressives. Second, reason is man's only means of knowledge, not faith, not tradition, not intuition, not collective consensus. Reason, the disciplined use of your mind to understand reality. Rand had no patience for claims that some truths are beyond reason, that we must accept things on faith, that the heart knows what the mind cannot grasp. For her, these were all evasions, ways of sneaking irrational beliefs past your rational defenses. Third, and this is where it gets controversial, rational self-interest is the proper moral purpose of your life, not service to God, not service to society, not service to the race, the nation, the poor, or any collective. Your own rational happiness, your own flourishing, your own life. This is what she meant by selfishness, and this is what everyone misunderstands. Rand was not advocating that you hurt others, steal from them, or treat them as objects to exploit. She specifically said that such behavior was irrational, self-destructive, and therefore not actually in your self-interest. What she meant by rational selfishness was this: you recognize that your life is the only life you will ever live. You recognize that you have one chance at existence, and that existence ends. You recognize that no one will live your life for you, that no one can give you a reason to live, that you must find and create your own purpose. And having recognized these facts, you decide to live for your own happiness, not at the expense of others, but as your primary goal. You work, you create, you build, you think, you achieve, because these things bring you joy and fulfillment. You trade with others voluntarily, value for value, each person pursuing their own interests, each person better off from the exchange. This is what she called the trader principle. No victims, no sacrifices, no masters, no slaves, just voluntary exchange between sovereign individuals. Second question for you. Think about your daily life. How much of what you do is because you genuinely want to do it, and how much is because you feel obligated, guilty, or afraid of what others will think if you don't? Rand would say that every hour you spend on obligation instead of genuine purpose is an hour stolen from your one precious life. The moral code that dominates our culture, Rand argued, is the morality of altruism. But she used that word differently than most people. She didn't mean kindness or helpfulness. She meant the ethical doctrine that places the interests of others above your own as a moral requirement, that teaches that self-sacrifice is the highest virtue, that says you must justify your existence by serving others. This morality, she argued, is poison. It makes happiness impossible because it teaches you to feel guilty for achieving it. It makes self-esteem impossible because it teaches that your own interests are less important than anyone else's. It makes love impossible because it teaches that caring for yourself is selfish, while only caring for others is noble. Rand saw this morality everywhere. In religion that teaches you are born in sin and must earn redemption through sacrifice. In political movements that demand you give up your wealth and freedom for the collective good. In personal relationships where people use guilt to control you. In education that teaches students to value everyone's opinion equally instead of seeking truth. She called altruism a death-worshipping philosophy because it treats life, particularly your life, as something to be given up rather than celebrated and defended. But Rand's alternative is not, as critics claim, a philosophy of cold selfishness, where everyone hurts everyone. She believed deeply in benevolence, in kindness, in the importance of human relationships. She just believed these things arise from self-interest properly understood, not from duty or guilt. You love people who add value to your life. You help those you care about because their well-being matters to you, which means it serves your interest in their happiness. You're kind to strangers because you live in a society, and your long-term interests are served by people treating each other decently. You give to causes you believe in because you value what those causes achieve. All of this comes from self-interest. The difference is honesty. Rand asks you to acknowledge that you do these things because they matter to you, not because duty compels you, or guilt manipulates you. Rand's novels illustrate these ideas through heroes who embody her ideal. In The Fountainhead, Howard Rourke is an architect who refuses to compromise his vision for clients, critics, or colleagues. He would rather work in a quarry than build something he doesn't believe in. In Atlas Shrugged, Hank Rearden and Dagny Taggart are industrialists and innovators who create immense value, but are treated as villains by a society that wants to take what they produce while condemning them for producing it. These novels resonate with millions because they tap into something many people feel, but are afraid to say, that producers are punished, that creators are shackled, that the competent are sacrificed to the incompetent, that guilt is weaponized against anyone who wants to succeed. Whether you agree with Rand's solution or not, she identified a real problem. There is cultural contempt for success, for ambition, for the desire to excel. We live in a time where billionaires apologize for being billionaires, where talented people downplay their abilities to avoid seeming arrogant, where children are taught that everyone gets a trophy specifically to avoid acknowledging that some perform better than others. Final question, and this is the most important. If you truly believed that your life belonged to you, and that your happiness was a moral goal, what would you do differently? What would you stop doing out of obligation? What would you start doing because you actually want to? Write it in the comments, because articulating this might be the first step toward reclaiming your life. Before we finish, I need to address the elephant in the room. Ayn Rand is controversial. Many people hate her. Some on the left see her as a prophet of greed, who justifies inequality. Some on the right are uncomfortable with her atheism and her dismissal of tradition. Many in the middle find her extreme, her heroes unrealistic, her worldview too black and white. These critiques have merit. Rand's philosophy has blind spots. Her dismissal of any role for community or tradition is too absolute. Her heroes are sometimes caricatures. Her contempt for those she considered weak or irrational was real and ugly. She could be dogmatic, intolerant of disagreement even among her followers, creating a cult-like atmosphere around herself that contradicted her own ideals of independent thinking. But dismissing Rand entirely because of her flaws means missing the powerful ideas she offers. Ideas about the value of your own life, about the importance of thinking for yourself, about refusing to sacrifice your potential to others' demands, about creating value rather than just consuming it or redistributing it. You don't have to agree with everything Ayn Rand said to benefit from her core insight. Your life is yours. You get one chance at existence. That chance is happening right now. Every day you spend living for others' approval, others' expectations, others' definitions of success, is a day you will never get back. Rand asks you to be selfish, but in a very specific way. She asks you to take your own life seriously, to treat your own happiness as important, to stop apologizing for wanting things, achieving things, being good at things. This doesn't mean ignoring others. It means engaging with them as equals, as traitors, as fellow humans pursuing their own paths, not as masters you must serve or victims you must save. Before you go, I need you to do something. If Ayn Rand's ideas challenged you, made you angry, made you think, or gave you permission to want what you want, share this video. Someone in your life needs to hear this. Someone is living for everyone but themselves. Someone needs permission to be selfish in the way Rand meant it. And subscribe to this channel. We're exploring ideas that matter, ideas that can actually change how you live, not just how you think. Ayn Rand died in 1982. Her final years were marked by some of the same contradictions that marked her life. She had denounced government but took Social Security. She had championed reason but formed an insular group of followers. She had celebrated individualism but demanded loyalty. She was human, flawed, inconsistent, just like everyone. But her ideas remain. Millions of people have read her books and found in them permission to live for themselves, to pursue their ambitions without guilt, to create value without apologizing, to exist for their own sake. Whether this message is liberating or dangerous depends on who hears it and how they apply it. Used as justification for cruelty, it's destructive. Used as liberation from guilt and permission to flourish, it can be life-changing. Ayn Rand believed that the noblest thing a human being can do is to create value and to live for the achievement of their own happiness. She believed that a world of such individuals, each pursuing their own rational interests, each trading value for value, would be the most prosperous, most innovative, most human world possible. Was she right? That's for you to decide. But decide consciously. Decide after thinking. Don't accept the guilt. Don't live by default. Don't sacrifice your one chance at existence to expectations you never questioned. Your life is yours. The question is, what will you do with it?